a biological superpower. We're diving deep into the fascinating psychology of people who actively choose to have no friends. In our main focus today, we are tracking the incredible journey from the looking-glass self to absolute autonomy and exploring exactly why solitary minds like Newton and Tesla hunt for legacy instead of chasing social approval. It's a wildly misunderstood topic, so let's just jump right in.
Okay, let's start by acknowledging a very specific, kind of uncomfortable feeling. Imagine it's Saturday night. You open up Instagram and bam, you are immediately hit with everyone else's squads. You know the posts: glasses clinking, group selfies, besties forever captions. If you happen to be sitting alone in a quiet room with a silent phone, society whispers that you are somehow failing. The underlying message is that the absolute peak of life is a crowded room, and if you aren't in one, you're just a weirdo, or you're depressed. Even the thought of admitting you don't have a friend group can bring up the sharp, tightening sensation in your gut. But why? Why does that social pressure literally hurt?
To really understand this panic, we actually have to rewind 200,000 years. That's when our Homo sapiens ancestors first showed up and started wiring the very brain you're using right now. And biologically speaking, we humans are pretty weak. We don't have fangs, we don't have claws, we're not incredibly fast. In the prehistoric jungle, going solo was a literal death sentence. The pack was our only superpower. Having a group meant someone watched your back while you slept. So getting kicked out of the tribe wasn't just a bummer. It meant you were going to die.
Modern brain scanners have revealed something absolutely mind-blowing about this. The siren system our ancestors passed down treats the emotional pain of isolation exactly the same as physical pain. Literally. If you break your leg, or if you are rejected by society, the exact same region of your brain lights up. When you're alone, your ancient brain pumps your body full of stress hormones. It's screaming, "Danger! Who is protecting you right now?" But when you squeeze into a crowd, it releases safety hormones. So when the world sees you eating lunch alone and looking totally relaxed, their primal brains just glitch out. But evolution always creates exceptions.
Section 1. The Chemical War. Dopamine versus acetylcholine.
What's really interesting here is that the difference between a social butterfly and a loner comes down to an underground chemical war in your brain. Social butterflies are essentially dopamine addicts. They crave outward excitement, loud music, new people, group drama. For them, a crowded room is literally a battery charging station. But solitary brains, they are overly sensitive to dopamine. A loud party isn't a reward, it's a total overload that causes a massive social hangover. Instead, the solitary mind runs on acetylcholine. While dopamine looks outward for joy, acetylcholine looks inward for peace. It's a much smoother, classier fuel that rewards deep focus, reading, and absolute silence. You aren't lacking joy. You're just running on premium fuel.
And this brilliantly illustrates why socializing is such an expensive investment. We're not talking about buying drinks, we're talking about your brain's energy capital. For a loner, there is a massive acting fee. Think about it. How many times have you had to fake a smile, nod along, and pretend to be fascinated by a painfully boring story when you just wanted to go home? Keeping that mask on burns through about 60% of your daily battery. If the return on investment is just a casual, superficial connection, solitary people simply decide the ROI is way too low to play the game. They would much rather invest that energy into a rich inner world.
Section 2. Escaping the reflection.
So let's look at this sociological concept called the looking-glass self. Most people fall into the trap of defining their own value based entirely on the reflection and approval of the crowd. If they want to feel funny, they need an audience to laugh. If they want to feel valuable, they count their virtual likes. They unintentionally turn themselves into puppets who need constant external validation. Their entire self-esteem is built on the quicksand of public opinion. But here's the magic. When you step away from the crowd, you don't have a mirror to lean on anymore. You are forced to switch from looking outward to looking inward. When you're frustrated and have no friends to dump your emotional trash on, you have to analyze yourself. You have to heal your own wounds. It's not easy, but it forges this impenetrable psychological armor that we call absolute autonomy. You don't need a group nod to know you're on the right track. You're immune to FOMO. Because honestly, how can you be left out when you are the center of the universe you created?
Now, we do have to be completely honest here for a second and ask a slightly tougher question. Are those concrete walls built from the pride of independence, or is your brain just ruthlessly protecting you? For some people, having no friends isn't a deep life philosophy. It's a defensive shield. It's a scar from being bullied or betrayed in the past. The brain basically calculates that humans equal pain and installs loneliness as a protective software update. If that's you, you aren't broken. You're a survivor. Just remember, Solitude should be a resting place to heal, not a permanent prison where you hide.
Section 3. The empathy battery drain.
Let's move to a massive plot twist about human nature. Society loves to judge solitary people as cold or unfeeling, but in reality, solitary people often have sky-high empathy scores. The reason they avoid crowds isn't because they don't feel anything, it's because they feel everything way too much. They operate like emotional sponges without a filter. Their intuition radar is always pinging at maximum power. If they see someone anxious or sad, they unconsciously absorb it as if it's their own problem.
Just imagine putting that super-sensitive radar at a busy 6-person dinner table. While everyone else is just having a fun night out, the empathetic mind is absorbing this chaotic mess of hidden resentment, whining, insecurity, envy, and fakeness. It is a full-scale attack on your nervous system. You unconsciously suck all that toxic energy right into your own body. So when the night ends, everyone else goes home refreshed, but you drag yourself home feeling like you literally just fought a war.
This thought completely hits the nail on the head. Staying away from the crowd isn't some arrogant flex. It's a mandatory survival mechanism. You're simply trying to protect a battery that wears out incredibly fast just because you connect so deeply with the underlying emotions of every single room you enter.
Section 4. Hunting for a legacy.
Now that we understand the fuel and the battery, let's look at what happens when solitary minds channel their absolute autonomy into history. Think about Hall of Famers like Isaac Newton, Beethoven, Nikola Tesla, or Picasso. Do you really think they wasted their Friday nights worrying about being unfollowed or making exhausting small talk? No way! They bypassed that fast food dopamine and temporary joy to hunt for a lasting legacy.
And they did this by activating something called the default mode network. It sounds super technical, but it's basically a highly active brain state that gets triggered by absolute silence. By cutting out useless socializing and the suffocating noise of the world, they created the essential gap for million-dollar ideas to sprout. In a world addicted to constant distraction, absolute silence is the holy ground for profound creativity.
You know that famous saying, right? You are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. Well, what if you don't have a squad? Congratulations. It means your thoughts, your ideas, and your identity are completely undiluted by anyone else's influence. By standing outside the looking glass, you become a perfect original. You are a limited version with absolutely no duplicates.
We really must draw a hard line between these two concepts. Loneliness is the painful state of being abandoned. It's a feeling of lacking. But solitude? Solitude is the ultimate empowered choice. It is the pride of daring to stand alone. While the crowd is busy networking and running after the noise, the solitary mind is quietly mining the power of silence and building an unshakable character.
So, the very next time someone looks at you and asks why you don't go out on a Saturday night, just smile. Remember this final thought. Are you really missing out on the fun, or are you just playing a much grander game? You're just building a private empire in a world addicted to illusions. That is definitely something to chew on the next time you find yourself enjoying.